Good morning, dental speakers, and welcome. Vanessa Emerson here, founder of Dental Speaker Institute and Dental Speakers Bureau, and I'm really excited to be here with Brittany Long, the queen of Evergreen, we can see on her screen. Welcome, Brittany.
Hey, thank you so much for having me.
Oh, absolutely, pleased to. So Brittany and I are new friends. We met through Podmatch, podmatch.com for those of you who are looking to do more podcasts. And it matched us up. And then we found out we have a common friend, Glenn Vo, which many of us here in dentistry know, and that Brittany and Glenn have done some work together. And after I was on Brittany's podcast, I thought, well, this makes total sense to bring her to talk to our folks, our speakers and consultants who are would benefit from knowing more about email automation, which is what we're going to be talking about today. So, but before we do, Brittany, tell me a little bit more about, why email automation for you? Tell us about your story. How did you get here?
Yeah, so I started out actually as a middle school science teacher years and years and years ago. I followed in my dad's footsteps. He was a teacher for 37 years. And about 6 years ago, he had a stroke. Well, two major strokes. He was in ICU. We went to visit him because we live a few hours away. And I'll never forget how, if you've ever, been with somebody that has had a stroke, they kind of sometimes look through you. They have some stuff with their, eyes they can't quite see. And so as he was kind of looking in my direction, he was like, I wish I'd spent more time with you and your brother. And it was a moment that I think probably changed the rest of my life, because that was a moment where I thought, I don't want to be in the same position 30 years from now. And so fast forward a few years, I left teaching, I was in digital marketing, and I saw the kind of impact that automated emails was having on my clients. I had one client that had some pretty intense, like, personal things going on with divorce and a lot of other things. And she was able to step out of her business for about 1.5 years. And part of that reason was because she had automated emails that were selling for her. And so I saw that happen there. And then after I had my baby a few years ago, I thought, I have to do this for myself also. I want to be able to take time off. And so now as a family, we take Fridays off, Friday, Saturday, Sunday, but we spend Fridays hiking or baking or watching movies all day. But whatever we do, it's together. And it's really neat because we still have money coming in through our automated emails. And that's really how it all started for me, is that moment where I realized I don't want to be saying the same thing. I don't want to be missing out on time with my family.
Wow, what a powerful story.
Mm-hmm.
And a couple things to unpack in there too. So like Fridays off, your podcast is called
The Friday Off Club.
The Friday Off Club.
Mm-hmm.
And where can we find your Friday Off Club? And can you give us like just a short and sharp, what is that about, the Friday Off Club podcast?
Yeah. So it's for entrepreneurs that are obsessed with creating the kind of life that they want, that aren't into the hustle culture. Let's hustle all the time. Like, they want to not just make a living, they want to actually live also. And so you can find it on Facebook. We have a group there. And then the podcast is the Friday Off Club podcast.
Yeah, that's so awesome. And you have some great guests on there.
Mm-hmm.
So well done. And what a wonderful example that many in our community would love to emulate, to be able to get to that 4-day work week and still have the money coming in.
Mm-hmm.
Awesome. And so you're saying that the email automation has something to do with that. So maybe we could start there. What is the problem or the challenge that our community, speakers and consultants, might be facing in their businesses? The email automation or lives, the email automation can help them with?
So normally when we work with speakers, consultants, coaches, they are still working a normal quote unquote job too. They're not speaking, consulting, or coaching full time yet. And so they have a lot of things that are keeping them busy in their life. And not all of those things are things that are really fueling them, that really light them up. But they're things they feel like, well, I have to do this because I need to make a living. And so they're doing that as well. And so with email automations, you're able to, it's almost like cloning yourself, because you're able to have those emails going out automatically, that anytime somebody comes on your list, maybe they're interested in hiring you, but they don't right away, they are still hearing from you. So without you having to sit down and remember to write emails all the time, or remember to send out individual emails all the time, you have basically your clone sending emails out. It sounds like you, because it's something that you've written or somebody's written for you. So it sounds like you, it feels like you, it's still offering helpful, valuable content to the people on your list, but you're not the one that's having to sit down and manually send it out every time, because who has time for that? And who can remember to do that with all the other things going on?
Right, well, and that's the whole idea as we scale and leverage our business, right, is to be able to put these systems in place that be able to make it more efficient for us.
Mhm.
So I'm assuming, and let me tell you what I'm picturing, and then you can tell me if we're in the right ballpark. I think what we're talking about is that within our email systems, and many of us will be using Constant Contact or Kajabi or MailChimp or something like that, Active Campaign. And so within those type of programs, there's an automation function that I'm positive many speakers and consultants are not utilizing right now. They might be utilizing that welcome email, and many of my clients, when we work with, will help them set up and customize their welcome email and put a lot of giveaways in there so that when they are having their speech and they have someone text to join, they're able to capture emails from within that audience, but also able to get right in front of them with some giveaways and also a little bit of marketing. So I think what you're saying is automation, then you would set up something with them to be able to help them go to the next email and the next and the next, anytime anyone comes on, right? Is what we're saying. So anytime anyone comes into the list. So what tips do you have? Am I in the right ballpark with that?
Absolutely. Yeah. And I wanted to add too that one of the great pieces about this is that you set it up once and then you're pretty much done with it. It can just run on its own. So let's say somebody joins your list today, and 3 years from today, they're still going to get that same series of emails. And think about how many times you thought about working with somebody and then things have happened, you forgot about it and you kind of forgot about them until maybe it gets brought up again. But if you could stay in front of them consistently and be top of mind, that's really the goal, is that it makes it easier for you to make those kind of sales and be top of mind for folks without having to put more on your plate.
Yeah, I'm hearing angels sing right now.
Yeah. Yeah.
Really, it's wonderful. So are there some tips that you would share to help people understand, how do I do this? Or like, especially mentioning that I might set it up today, but it will still be running as long as I don't modify it. And so we don't want to, we probably want to keep it timeless, I would assume, the content. We're not going to want to market something happening next month in our automation necessarily, or do it in a way that would be evergreen.
Right. Yeah, we call it an evergreen sequence so that it is something that they can use at any time. So you're not going to put anything that if you're having a launch or something like that, that wouldn't go in there. Or if you're saying, hey, there's a special deal happening right now, that wouldn't go in there either. Anything that is not time bound, that doesn't really talk about current events, those are the kind of things that go in there. So the tips that you're giving people anyway, one of the biggest questions I get is, well, what do I write in these emails? And so for me, when I'm figuring that out for people, I say, okay, what are some of the main questions that you get in your inbox from people that you would love to hire you? And then answering some of those questions in the email. That shows them not only are you competent, that you're authority in your field, but also that you are basically in their brain, answering some of their questions while they have them. So looking in your inbox is a great way to go. Looking on spyfu.com, spyfu.com. It basically you type in, let's say I would type in maybe dentist speaker or something like that. It's going to have questions that people have about a dentist speaker. And so it shows you questions that people are already searching for. Same thing with Uber Suggest and answerthepublic.com. All of those are great resources to find what people are already asking about your niche, so that you don't have to make up stuff on your own. You could just search for what people are already asking.
That's so valuable. Thank you for sharing that.
My pleasure.
Yeah, that's so cool. I've never even heard of those websites, so I'm gonna go check those out. That's awesome. And then on top of that, our speakers and consultants likely have a finger on the pulse and know what their ideal fit client is typically looking for as well. So it feels that we can totally create something that would go at least a year. What do you recommend? Do you recommend that someone just keep adding to the end of this, or do you recommend a sequence of like 6 months, or what do you recommend?
So we often start with a year and then we add on to it from there. And the reason we do a year is because that gives you an entire year of buffer room, entire year to work on other systems in your business, other things that are coming up. And then typically by the end of the year, if you wanted to start that sequence again, you could, because the chances of someone remembering an email from a year ago isn't that high. So you can continue to use it again and again. But usually we start at a year, and then anytime you have an email that you think, oh my gosh, that was such a good email, we look at it, take out anything that is like time sensitive, and then put it at the back of the evergreen sequence to add on to it.
Fabulous. So is there a certain program that you recommend that people use? For this?
So it depends a little bit on what their needs are. If you're looking for just an email service provider, ActiveCampaign is a pretty good one. It's pretty good with your sequencing that you can do. If you're just starting out, ConvertKit is a good one because it's easy to use at the beginning. Same with MailChimp, very easy to use at the beginning. MailerLite is a good one if you're looking for something that's lower cost and also easy to use. And then my personal favorite is Kartra Mail. It has the pages, the memberships, everything all in one place, in addition to the emails and the sequencing.
Oh, that's awesome. Is this something you do for people? Do you set up those accounts and help them set up their automation?
We do. We write for people and then we also set it up for them as well.
Oh, that's nice. So you do the design work and everything that comes along with it.
Yep. And we found, not for everyone, but for most people, we found that adding all this extra design actually makes it a little bit more clunky and they have a lower open rate. Not for everyone, but we like to split test that because most of the time the people we work with haven't split test that yet. They're just doing what everybody else in their industry is pretty much doing. And sometimes that's great. Sometimes that works, but not always. So we like being able to split test that and see what works best.
So I think what you're suggesting is that instead of having something heavily laden with images or a lot of different fonts and that sort of thing, it's just more, it's more text based. It has some level of branding to it, though, I'm assuming.
Formatting. Yeah. Some level of formatting and branding, but not too heavy on that image side of it. Typically, again, sometimes it's a little bit different, but we always like to split test it so that we know for sure.
Have you found that it's better to have words or video, or like, what do you suggest? Or is it a mixture?
So I suggest words, and then if you want to have a video, having a GIF instead, or GIF, however you want to say it, where it has the image and then like the play button on top of it, so that they can see, okay, this is something I'm supposed to click, and then when they click it, it opens up to a new page. That's what we've seen work best, both from a deliverability standpoint and open rates, click rate standpoint. Instead of trying to put the video in there, it gets too heavy and often goes to spam. The other thing that you can do with that is that once they get to the page where the video is on, then you can have the button that takes them to an offer, or you can have a button that takes them to something else. But it's much easier for them to see the button if it's on a page. So instead of just the video, they have the page. And we've had great success with that for us and for our clients.
Oh, that's awesome. Awesome. Well, when someone wants to work with you, what does that look like? Do you get together and strategy call, or like, walk us through that?
Absolutely. So we often start with a strategy call. Typically people say, oh, I know exactly who my audience is, and that's fantastic. But we also go a little bit deeper from a copywriting standpoint. And sometimes what we found is that folks are so close to their business that you've been saying the same things to your audience again and again, but they may need to hear it in a little bit different way. So often as business owners, we sometimes talk in like businessese instead of talking in what our customer, in the language our customer is using. And so we look at all of those things. We have about 10 different items that we look at and we ask questions about. We do the strategy together and we map out we could do the entire year or 6 months of your evergreen emails, those automated emails, so that you have that buffer room. And then from there, we can write the emails with you or write them for you.
Fabulous. I mean, that sounds amazing, right? So it doesn't have to take a lot of time from the standpoint of our busy professionals. So if someone wants to learn more, where do they go to find you and more about this?
Yeah, so our website is winwithsystems.com, and then you can find me on almost all social media, TikTok, Instagram, Facebook, on the Queen of Evergreen, and then on YouTube as well as Brittany Long.
I just love that you have the Queen of Evergreen. I bet there's some people who are really jealous about the fact that you grabbed that identity.
I know, I'm really excited about it too.
Do you have that domain?
I do, yeah.
Awesome. That's fabulous. And so if someone wanted to reach out to you, best email would be
Brittany at winwithsystems.com, and it's Brittany, Brittany at winwithsystems.com.
And I'll put that email and the website down below as well. Oh, Brittany, this has been really enlightening and so helpful. Before we go, is there anything else we haven't covered that would be important for speakers and consultants to know about email automation and using it in their businesses, and why?
I think often people will wait. They think, well, I don't have everything perfect yet, or I may be switching my niche a little bit. So I'll wait. But often when people tell me that, it's like 3 years later that they start. And then when they finally do start, they start to see the money that comes from that. And they're like, why did I wait? So it does not have to be perfect. The main thing is that you start as soon as possible. Start today if you can. And if you're like, well, what do I even send to my audience? Pick one question that you've been asked recently and send that answer out in an email. Even something as simple as that is going to get the momentum going for you.
Oh, that's fabulous. You know, for years, I've created a newsletter based
Mhm.
on questions that people ask me. And so I think many of us have done that in the industry. We could even go back probably and harvest from what we have previously. I often say reuse, repurpose, recycle, right? So we don't have to recreate the wheel, go back and see what we've created before. And I bet people would be able to easily create a year's worth of content. So, well, I really want to encourage everyone to reach out to Brittany to find out more. Brittany at winwithsystems.com. Brittany, thanks so much for being here today and shining a light on email automation and how it can help our speakers and consultants.
Thank you for having me.
And everyone be well, and we'll see you next month.